This video is for Chapter 9, which deals with sorting and searching arrays, and I'm going to do a bubble sort because that's the easiest one probably to understand, and I'm already started the process. I've got an array here of 5 names, and notice that I've initialized it to a blank space using the double quotes indicating it is a string array, and then I have set I equal to 1. It's going to be my loop control variable here in main to get my data in. If I is greater than 5, I'm finished. If not, I want to enter the name and add 1 to I. The second loop is going to print out those names and then we'll end. So it's basically a repeat of the first name. It's just a change I'm outputting instead of inputting. We will need a call to the procedure that does the bubble sort, and that's the part we're interested in, so that's what we're going to add. So I'm going to add a procedure here called bubble sort that'll have the logic in it to perform a bubble sort. It's only going to need one parameter, and that is the array called names, and it's both input and output. It's coming in the order that it was input, but it'll go out in sorted order. In the bubble sort, I've got several variables that I need to work with, so I'm going to put my assignment boxes in here. And the first one is going to be a temp, which is where I'm going to store my name temporarily if I need to make a sort. So it's a string, and I'm initializing it to a blank. Common swap kind of algorithm. The second one will be the loop control variable for my outer loop, which tells me whether or not I'm actually finished sorting my entire loop, and I'm going to call that iteration, and I'm going to set it to 1. And then my third variable is going to be I, which is my loop control variable for my inner loop, where the swap will be performed if necessary. And I'm going to start it with I. And again, there's several ways that a bubble sort actually logically can be set up. This is the one that I'm most comfortable with, and I think probably the easiest one to understand. So now I need a loop statement. And there it is. And my loop control here is if my I is greater than 5, because if it is, I'm finished with my sort. So I'm going to check to see if I is greater than 5. No, I said that wrong. If iteration is greater than 5. That's my outer loop. Although I could have turned it around, but that's the way I'm doing it. And to show you which paths we're on, I'm also going to add an output statement inside the loop here that prints out the value of iteration, just so you know where we are. That's just a little extra to hopefully make the code a little bit clear. Okay, so that takes care of my outer loop. Then right underneath that, I'm going to do my inner loop, which is going to come down here under the no path. And this loop, the control here is if I is greater than my limit, which is 5, minus the path that I'm currently on. This is to reduce the number of passes as I come through and make my comparisons. So I've got that one in, and then what I'm going to do inside this loop is make any swaps if they're necessary. So I need an if statement to determine whether or not I need to swap. So the question here is my first element, or the current element I'm looking at, which will be stored in name sub I, is it greater than, because if it is, I want to move it. I'm going from A to Z alphabetically. Is it greater than the element next to it? So that would be I plus 1 as a subscript. So that if I is 1, if I'm looking at name sub 1, then I'm comparing it to name I plus 1, which would be 2. If that's true, then I need to perform the swap, and that takes 3 assignment statements. So I'm going to put them in right here. The first one being to take the value that's in name sub I and store it in temp. So I'm just putting it in a temporary location while I move the second name into the first name's storage location. So now what I'm doing is setting name sub I equal to name sub I plus 1. And then I've got that swap done, so what I'm left with is to put temp into name sub I plus 1. So I want to set name plus I, name sub I plus 1 equal to temp. That will perform my swap. And again, just to give you a little more information, I'm actually printing out that I am doing that swap and which two elements are being swapped. So I want to say swap performed with name sub I and name sub I plus 1. Again, not part of the algorithm, but just to show you what's going on. Now, whether or not I do a swap or I don't, I still have to increment I. And I'm going to do that right here because either way I have to do that. So this is simply setting I equal to I plus 1. And then that's the inner loop. So it's going to keep coming in here until this entire inner loop is finished. When the whole loop is finished and I is greater than 5, we're coming out to the outer loop. And in the outer loop, I've got two things I need to do. One is to set I back to 1, and the other one is to increment iteration, the loop control variable for the outer loop. So I want to set I back to 1 because it's coming back into the inner loop, comparing the objects again, the elements of the array, and then not like that, and then increasing iteration by 1. So I want to set iteration to iteration plus 1, because the outer loop is going to keep checking to see if I'm fully sorted. So that takes care of the bubble sort itself. Again, you have a hard copy of that. You may need to look at it. Now I've got to go back to main and actually call the bubble sort and see how it works. So I need a call statement. Once my array is loaded, I want to call it, perform the sort, and then come back and print out, hopefully, my sorted array. So bubble sort. The only thing I'm passing to it is the array called names, and I'm done. And names is correct here. Let me double check in bubble sort. Nope. See what I did right here? These should all have an S on them. Let me edit that, because name is not the name of my array. Names is the name of my array. So I'm glad I thought to check it. And this one should be names and names. And I did it down here as well. Did it everywhere. Maybe I should have named it name instead of names, plural. Names, names. Oop, there's one I missed. Names, names, names. Okay, I think we're good. So let's try it and see what we get. I'm going to put in the first name, Tom. Use short names here. Ann. Sue. Bob. Ed. Okay, and remember the plus over here. I can actually look at my array. and it's duplicated over here in the bubble sort, and it's coming through, and we can watch it. Hopefully it'll be a little clear. Notice the order though. Ann's in the right place. Tom is in the right place, so it's only Sue, Bob, and Ed that need to be moved. Sue will come to the 4th position. Bob will stay where it is in the 2nd position, and Ed actually stays. So in this case, it doesn't have to do many swaps, but it does have to keep going through until there are no more iterations necessary to compare each element to the element next to it. And there it is. So it's actually this bottom part. So iteration 1, it's swapping Ann with Tom, Sue with Tom, Bob with Tom, Ed with Tom. Iteration 2, Bob and Sue are swapped, Ed and Sue. Then the last iterations, because it's in order by then, 3, 4, 5, and 6, it goes through, but it did not have to perform any swaps. So you can see this is not the most efficient kind of a sort, but it does work.